Justin, Nault here. I am extremely excited about my guest today because we're going to venture away from the land of fitness and nutrition for a little while, and we're going to talk about all things personal finance. My guest today is Garrett Gunderson. He is the founder of Wealth Factory and a best-selling author and all-around financial genius. I want to talk about debt because that's the number one thing that I got. The number one theme of all these questions is getting out of debt. And the scary thing there is like, wisdom through experience is huge. Like my very first business deal with Clovis, I lost multiple six figures. I got murdered. I don't talk about that a lot, but just because there was a lawsuit and all this craziness, right? It was awful. But I touched a very hot stove that I'll never touch again, you know, the wisdom through experience. But that's the other thing I find is that people feel like they're so far gone. They've been burned by college. They've been burned by whatever, bad credit card debt. So these people that are in debt have this built-in excuse of like, yeah, Justin, yeah, Garrett, you guys can do this, but I'm still over here stuck in this debt. Now, your methods have been staggering to me in terms of how quickly you get people out of debt. So if someone is suffering from that debt and that's a big obstacle for them, where do you start with them?
Well, it's my 3 R's: restructure, reallocate, and renegotiate. Okay. So what a lot of people do is they just kind of take a haphazard shotgun approach. Like, this bill's due. I've got a little extra money on this. I'll just pay extra to this loan. Oh, hey, this time this one came up. I didn't have extra. I pay the minimum. And so they just kind of, based upon their circumstance, pay towards things. The better way to do it is first take your cash flow index, which is take your loan balance and divide it by the minimum required monthly payment. So just what's being required. Loan balance divided by minimum monthly payment. It spits out a number. If that number is less than 50, you have a cash hog on your hands. You don't have a lot of money that you owe to the institution, but you have a really high payment in relationship to that balance. So loan balance divided by minimum monthly payment gives you your cash flow index. If it's over 100, you have a pretty efficient loan. I wouldn't rush to pay that off. I'd make sure to build up your own cash, and then you can pay it off when you have enough cash to pay it off, so you keep control of your money. But the restructure part is a lot of people could refinance loans and get better terms or combine loans for overall lower interest rate. So if you have a paid off car, if you were to refinance that car, you can get a 1.9, 2.9% interest rate, pay off a high interest rate credit card, and guess what? Your car loan improves your credit score. Your credit card probably hurts your credit score. So all of a sudden you boost your credit score. You can now go negotiate better interest rates with your other lenders. So find the cash flow index, pay the minimum to every single loan other than the loan with the lowest cash flow index, pay extra to that one. Restructure loans so you can improve your cash flow index. Maybe you have equity in your home, you refinance it, you pull in a credit card, you pull in a business loan. Make sure you've got an automated infrastructure. This is kind of a major point to capture that so it doesn't just get spent. But now you're in a tax deductible situation versus non-tax deductible, lower interest rate situation versus higher interest rate. And then the renegotiation is if you have credit cards, a lot of the credit card companies will lower your interest rate if you know what to say when you call them. Mm-hmm. So there's 4 C's that are really important when it comes to, having purchasing power and restructuring the renegotiation. First is good credit. Get your credit above 760. And if it's above 760, you're going to have better options. Now to do that, you might have to limit the number of inquiries of letting people look at your credit. You have to make sure you're paying on time. You might have to have an installment loan like a car loan to boost it up. You might have to increase your limits available to you on your credit card so that there's nothing over 20 or 30% of utilization. You might have to make sure there's no errors on your credit report. There's some basic things that you could do that could really boost that score. Number 2, have good cash flow reporting. Like institutions, if everything's disorganized, they're not going to want to, help you out and give you a loan. When you come very organized and when you speak the language of the institution, you know how to present yourself. Then you look at collateral, like a car versus a credit card. That collateral can lower your interest rate. Like a home versus a business line of credit, you can get a lower interest rate. Then the right connections. There's just certain institutions that lend better to certain type of people than others. So it's important to build those relationships. So restructure the loan. You can reallocate is the other R, which is if, let's just say you have like cash value in insurance, or you have a 401k, or you have a certificate of deposit that's not earning much. Anytime you're earning a lower interest rate than you're paying, why not use that cash, pay off the loan? It's going to improve your cash flow. It's going to get you a better immediate guaranteed return by saving that interest. And then again, go back to your lowest cash flow index and only pay extra to that loan. So you might pay off a loan, you might restructure a loan, you might get a better interest rate on a loan, and then you only pay extra to one loan at a time. And this makes a massive difference in the time it takes to pay off loans.
Yeah, cash flow index was huge for me. And I just paid off my last actual loan personally besides my mortgage. I went through this with Tim at Wealth Factory, and my cash flow index on my car was like 47. And he's like, dude, he runs some numbers for me. He's like, if you pay this off, I had the cash on hand to pay it off. He said, if you pay this off, everyone's thinking about investing. You pay this off, you get a 25% return on your money. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that, so I just went ahead and paid it off, just got the title in the mail, which is awesome. But so that brings me to in terms of the, an efficient loan, that term you said of an efficient loan, because so a lot of people, I hear this term thrown around constantly, and especially from the ultra conservative, like the Dave Ramsey world and everything, it's this idea of debt free besides my mortgage. So people get there, and that's beautiful. That's where I'm at right now. But my mortgage is an asset because it's an Airbnb, so that's a little bit different. But people get to this place, which is a beautiful place. But then everyone, I see them zapping all of their cash flow. They go, now I'm going to pay off my house as quickly as possible, and I'm going to be completely debt free. And they scrimp and save, and they're misers, and they suffer till their house is paid off. Can you explain why this isn't necessarily the best approach from a cash flow standpoint?
Well, there's multiple issues we're facing here. The first is most mortgages are amortized, right? So you could pay extra next month and your payment still stays the same. It just shortens the term of your loan. Mm-hmm. What if that's a 30-year loan? You might pay extra, and now you saved 2 years. That's still 28 years away that you've tied your money up in what I call equity jail.
Yes.
Equity jail is money inside of your house that you can't get access to. And by the way, you can only access that money by refinancing, getting a line of credit, or selling the home. Now, banks never want to work with you if you're in a cash crunch. So let's say that you've got 50% of the value of your home in equity, and now you hit a cash flow crunch and you're like, I need to get that equity. The bank's going to say, I don't think so. Your financials don't look good. You're not earning the kind of money we want to. And then why not have them they want to foreclose. There's equity in that thing. They're like, cool, right? But my problem is people that try to pay off their mortgage do it at the expense of investing in themselves.
Exactly.
They might not take supplements. They might not have a trainer. They might not, be investing, and everything's going towards that. So it's like this weight on their shoulders that they're trying to get through. And they're so tunnel vision that they're missing out on life along the way. Now, the bigger problem is those people that actually pay it off, they're not teachable anymore. They think they've figured it all out.
Yeah.
Just like the doctor that's an amazing surgeon and knows nothing about nutrition that's giving nutrition advice.
100%, man. Yeah. Yeah. I see that too. And there's a lot of young kids falling into this. I researched it quite a bit for a while before I found Wealth Factory, that FIRE, financial independence, retire early. And it's like, these people just like for all of their 20s are like living with 8 roommates and living on rice and beans so they can retire early. And I'm like, and then what? Like, you don't even know what you like.
The problems we're facing in the world we don't get value if someone retires. They get taken out of service. We want people to stay and help, right? I get being a minimalist. That's fine. Being a minimalist is fine. But sacrificing is absolutely not. Sacrificing, like my partners died at age 35. What if they lived a life of sacrifice? Well, one of them, his widow told me, she goes, I feel like we lived a lifetime in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
They'd been on trips. They had done night diving in Hawaii. They had hired a photographer to get pictures on the beach. They had gone to South Carolina and stay, like they just did all these things.
Yeah.
And I was in my 20s like, oh, I could always do that later. Damn, what if I was the one on that plane?
Right. In my 20s, man, like I had a great career. I did reality TV, a whole bunch of fun stuff, right? For 10 years straight, I played 300 shows a year, literally. I was on stage all the time. And I looked at it finally. Now, it's part of the reason I started an e-commerce company is I was like, this is no way to live. Every weekend, every holiday. Yeah, I'm on stage watching everyone else have fun. I'm on stage. That's kind of cool. But you're burnt out after 10 years. Then I started Clovis and I quit playing bar gigs. And for the next year, I traveled to 8 different countries. I lived in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I joined Baby Bathwater and I went to these islands and this amazing stuff. And I'm like, I feel like I lived 10 years in 1 year just because I had more freedom of my time.
Freedom of time and quality of life at the forefront. So yeah, man, I mean, like all this money thing, the first thing I would say is we don't have to know everything that we think we need to know about money. We need to know how it works and conceptually about it. Like, I would bet that people think I know 10 times more than I do when it comes to numbers.
Right.
But I probably know 10 times more than they even can consider when it comes to philosophy.
Yeah.
I understand the concept of money. So I know the questions to ask.
Right.
I know how it applies, right? But I can't look at a tax form and really know what's going on there. But I do know the tax concepts.
Right.
So that's, I think, helpful to not get intimidated by money. You know, and know what to actually pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And
yeah, man.
This mortgage thing, I put a video on YouTube that said paying off your mortgage destroys your finances, and people lost their shit about that. And I'm like, look, I actually don't believe it destroys your finances. I believe you put yourself at risk if you're just paying extra to the bank versus saving that money on the side. And then people are like, well, I'm never going to do better saving money on the side than the interest I save paying down my mortgage. I'm like, really? Because my mortgage right here in the house I'm sitting in, 4%. The place I've been putting the money has been earning 5.32%. And it's secure and it's locked in once it's earned. And so I'm actually going to pay off my home faster. I could pay it off tomorrow if I want. I have the money to pay it off. I'm not going to, because I'm not staying here forever. I'm just staying here until my kids graduate high school. And then my wife and I think we'll move. Right. Yeah. So why would we pay that off, tie up that capital when I'm earning more than it's costing me?
100%.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, I think that sometimes Dave Ramsey's really pandering to people that are reckless with their cash.
Sure.
But man, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about how it really works. And if they need to go to a psychiatrist, then they go to a psychiatrist. We can't create the lowest common denominator for everyone in money.
Of course.
Everyone should pay off their mortgage. Really? So we are no longer responsible human beings at all. We're just going to assume the worst instead of look at the economics behind our choices and decisions. I'm not willing to succumb to that. I'm not willing to say, this is just how it is. Let's just tell people, think what's the easiest, most thoughtless thing that you could do that will harm the least number of people, even though it's harming everyone, because it's like being like, we're just going to accept obesity. Obesity. It's how it is now. No, I don't accept that. I don't accept that.
No, I totally agree, man. And it's crazy too, because the finance thing, I look at the Dave Ramseys of the world. I see so many people with like horrific credit card debt, and I compare it to nutrition. I go, okay, if you're in a really bad spot, Dave Ramsey's advice is probably going to help you get better. So if I have a client that's 300 pounds and they want to be 150 pounds, I'll give them the clear path to get there. If they hit 150 pounds and they say, now I want to gain 20 pounds of muscle, they need to forget everything I just taught them about how to lose 150 pounds, because that plan is going to work directly against them building 20 pounds of muscle, the same way the Ramsey approach will work directly against getting rich. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's the best at getting a train wreck on track.
Exactly.
Mind you, it's a very slow track.
Yes.
You know? And it still comes with the shackles of scarcity. It still comes with the shackles of pinching, cutting, reducing, eliminating. Because, I mean, maybe he's changed his mind. I read his books a decade ago or longer. Right. And a lot of that was like, you know, I want to adopt, but I might have to borrow some money to do it. He's like, then don't adopt. You're not ready. I'm like, whoa. That's a pretty crossing the line of like a human life, and that they might have to borrow a little bit. I'm like, and then another person wrote into one of his books and was like, hey, my daughter's been following your advice so much, but now she won't spend any money on anything at all. And, you know, it's like, when you take it to that conclusion. So it really always has to be about investing in yourself, enjoying life along the way, but being responsible enough to pay yourself first and then just live off whatever's left over. No reason to budget if you don't go out of bounds. You only have to budget if you go out of bounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And something quick I want to touch on that was great in Budgeting Sucks, because you ran some numbers there about getting out of debt and everything, but this seems like really low-hanging fruit, and it goes to the concept of one of your sacred cows, which is 401ks.